This is how you do a front page, ladies and gentlemen. Daily Telegraph, Halloween, get it? And I don't know if you can see it in your TV screens unless you've got the ultra high res 4K, but we've done a little cobweb, sort of a spider's web over the masthead and the splash head, just to sort of put a bit of the sort of festive. It's almost a bit 3D. It's a bit Avatar. Anyway, you other newspaper editors wouldn't understand. Anyway, council overreach in scare campaign on spooky decorations. You will not believe this. Exclusive by Talia Dobson and Caitlin Hudson O'Farrell. The latter a very good friend of mine, Caleb, you'll be pleased to know. And Talia, well, she's just a friend I haven't met. Councils are warning residents off using Halloween decorations like fake spiders' webs, see what we're doing there, in a move that's been labelled a nanny state overreach. The push by the Inner West and Willoughby come on, Darcy, don't fall for it. The push by the Inner West and Willoughby councils is claimed to be based on environmental concerns, yet native animal organisations say they cannot definitively link the decorations to injuries to wildlife. So we've got no evidence that it actually caused any harm, but we'd better ban it anyway just to be on the safe side.
They're not the only councils that have done this. So we've done stories before. I think there was one in South Australia. I think there was one in Queensland. There's been a few councils now have said, no, you can't have it. My understanding with the Inner West is they haven't actually banned it, but they're warning people not to use it.
That's right. Because Darcy Byrne, the mayor of the Inner West, is a very sensible human being who would never bow to the crazy whimsy of the Greens.
Your ability to talk up members of the Labor Party, Joe, is quite extraordinary. But seriously, have they got nothing better to do than to police people? I'm not a great fan of Halloween, but like policing people having fun, really.
Well, they have to keep all the council bureaucrats employed and doing things. So no doubt hundreds of hours of work went into building full case studies to establish whether or not these spider webs that were up for 1 week would kill native wildlife.
We need to, you know what we should do? You need to launch an urgent study, an urgent research project that encompasses all the bureaucrats you have, all the council officers you have to hand, get them all working on a study as to whether children's laughter is disruptive to native bird life.
That's a good one. Well, in the Australian tomorrow, the headline is Farage Light, the road to Lib's ruin. A Farage Light populist agenda and the rejection of free market thinking would lead the Liberals to destruction, senior opposition frontbencher James Paterson has declared in a repudiation of Conservative allies Andrew Hastie and Jacinta Namatjima-Price in a landmark intervention by one of the party's most respected Conservatives amid what some Liberals have declared an existential crisis. Senator Paterson demanded the opposition end the apology tour and put a clear time limit on its soul-searching, warning that the party had a moral duty to prevent Victoriarising the country.
He's not wrong, is he?
He's not wrong. The question, though, that I always have when people raise this point is everyone levels the accusation of populist. But what does populist actually mean? Popular. And where are the most popular Conservative parties in the world? Reform in the UK, Trump's MAGA Republicans. I mean, clearly there's a formula there that's working. And I don't think populist policies have to come at the expense of free market policies. I think it's just about balancing competing interests of, yes, we want free markets, but also maybe it would be good if we had a bit more manufacturing in the country. Like, I don't get how it's that controversial.
Well, it's not necessarily controversial, but I suppose the difference is the electoral systems that you have to deal with. And so by the nature of, the UK has first past the post, but here you have run on preferences and it's compulsory. It does change the game a little bit. So you can't necessarily always be as a mainstream party as hard as you would like to be. And those parties like Pauline Hanson's One Nation, for instance, and whatever, will exist, and hopefully you end up with their preferences. It's just sort of the nature of how politics works in this country, I suppose. And he's saying, the two options in front of the Libs that they need to resist is becoming reform, and that doesn't mean that you can't take elements of what reform does, and also just becoming a version of the Teals as well. He said you can't do that because that won't work. But I'll tell you what he is bang on about is he's described all this business where the Libs say, you know, everything's on the table and we're discussing our policies. And he's called it an ongoing mass public therapy session, and he has blamed that. And this is what I was saying weeks ago. He has blamed that for why Jacinta Nampijinpa-Price and Andrew Hastie started speaking out, because there is a vacuum. And when there is a vacuum, someone eventually starts to fill it. So he's saying, get your skates on, let's come up with some policy, because if you don't like what Andrew Hastie is saying and you think he shouldn't be on the front bench, same with Price, then let's give us some policy to talk about. He's bang on.
Yeah, well, I like James Paterson a lot, but I also think Andrew Hastie is probably holding back the tide of One Nation's surge. They've doubled in the polls since the election, and we do not want to go the way of the Tories here in Australia.